Hi everyone, it's Jill Rothstein here, author of the Heaven Sent series. My book Atonement is out now. You can get it on Amazon or you can get it on my website at jailrothstein.com. Thank you for joining my segment, Three Questions With. I have pen name EP Stavs with us today. Welcome to the show, Erin.
Hi, nice to have you.
I'm so excited to chit chat with you. This is my favorite part of doing the show, is getting to meet all these fabulous authors. Most people I've met on Twitter, a couple people on Instagram, but we were chit-chatting a little bit before the show and talking about all the fabulous books that you have sitting right next to you. So tell us about your book that's out now and the one that's coming out in December.
All right, my first book out right now is The Marked Princess by EP Stavs. It's the first book in my new series, the Chandri series. And The Marked Princess is about a young woman named Jocelyn who, despite being a crowned princess and all the expectations that go along with that role, as I'm sure you are aware of,
we all are,
right, has basically spent her entire life doing exactly the opposite. She's climbing trees, she's running foot races with the boys, she's weapons training with the men. She does on occasion wear trousers. Shocking, scandalous. But most importantly, she's strong and she's very proud of that fact. So when shit hits the fan, as it happens in these kind of books, usually happens, and she finds herself fleeing for her life with nothing but a single dagger and her loyal guard, Alex, wink, wink. Nothing happening there, no spoilers. But she's kind of forced to ask herself, is she really as strong as she always thought she was? And if she is that strength going to be enough to save herself and also her entire kingdom? So add to that a little celestial magic, a little ancient bond, and a healthy dose of romance. And Mark Princess. There you go.
So you have it. And your next book is due out in December.
Yes, part 2. Which focuses on another member of the Chandri, will be out on December 8th.
Searching so Songbird. Exciting. That is very, very exciting. So I asked you to come on the show to talk a little bit about writing and a little bit about your book and everything that goes along with writing and balancing life. And we went over some questions. I don't have the answers, but I have the questions ahead of time. So the first one is about music. Do you listen to music when you write? And does that change depending on what it is that you're writing?
Music is, I don't think I would have written an entire book if I couldn't have music to go along with it. I would never have finished because I plot every single scene to music. I lie in the dark like a weirdo with my headphones on, and I have like a notebook nearby, and I just have music playing, and I have like this idea that I have in my head, and then I think about it, and then it just kind of plays through my head until I find some scenes, and I get up and I jot it down in my notebook, and then I continue being a weirdo. The beginning of The Marked Princess, I started with an unhealthy dose of Billie Eilish, a lot of Billie Eilish. It started out very dark.
Now that's a little bit dark. Billie Eilish is very dark and introspective. So did you feel like your character was in that space when you were writing it?
I feel like she was, and there's definitely aspects of that in the book, although I think the dialogue and the banter and some other things lightens it up a little bit. I brought in other songs too, but there's definitely a dark strain to it, and it's not like a necessarily happy-go-lucky romance. Bad things happen. But
well, if she's running for her life, that's definitely not a happy-go-lucky, and it's a good thing she just happens to have a dagger. I think everyone.
For stabbing.
Have that. Yeah,
stabbing.
Yeah, like who doesn't have that? Who doesn't have that in their toolkit? So as the book was progressing and you were writing, obviously there was different music, as you mentioned before. So based on the mood of the character, did you search out certain music, or was it the other way around? Like the music dictated sort of how you were writing her?
Sometimes I would hear a song and that kind of influenced it. For especially the romance in there was heavily influenced. I was in Zumba class and they played the song Baby by Clean Bandit, and I'm just, I'm doing my little salsa or whatever, and then I'm like, I know what to do, and then I'm just like, spacing out in the middle of Zumba class with all these ladies. They have no idea what's going on in their head. It's crazy.
They're like, that person is lost in thought. That's what they were thinking. They were like, that person is in their own world. We should leave her to it, which I think to a lot of the authors that I've been talking about is that music is so influential. It really is a place where they can sort of tap into their creative side. So in talking about writing, so one of the other questions that we had to ask you was, you know, if you could talk to your younger self, if you could give your younger self a piece of advice, even if that was last year's younger self, you know, what would that be?
If I could talk to my younger self, I would
This
just
is a tough one.
I would tell her just to keep your head up, keep moving forward. You've done a lot of stupid stuff, a lot of embarrassing things, and that's okay. Every single stupid, embarrassing thing that I've done has made my writing better, probably. So I would just keep doing it. Just keep going. Just don't look back. Keep going. It's all good.
I think that's probably good advice for anyone. I think that's probably good advice to give to any new writer. And I have often talked to people and just said, just finish and don't, you know, I've read a lot of articles where people talk about going back to their first work or their first book, you know, whether it was poetry or a novel
Yeah.
or whatever they were publishing and ripping it apart. It's like, no, that's so unhealthy. It's really all about the fact that you finished, that you were brave enough to put it out there, and that you just kept going and that you kept coming out with new material. So finishing and moving forward is a very positive message, I think, for anyone who is on there. So what are you reading right now?
Oh my gosh, I read all the things. I have read so many things. I have Kindle Unlimited, so I make use of every penny I've spent in that. I just finished Untitled by Wendy Bain, I liked that quite a bit. Very historical fiction. It was good. But I just started, and I'm about 20% of the way through The Frost Eater by Carol Beth Anderson. And I'm just in love with it. I'm definitely going to be reading that later today before I watch Outlander, because I just started that. No spoilers, I haven't seen too much. But I really
only
like
just
it.
started it recently too. Yeah, I only recently started that show too because of Twitter and all the other, like Eva out there on Twitter with that's her Wednesday abs is always the guy from Outlander. So I was like, I need to see what's going on here. Like what is this all about? So, but yeah, it's he's obviously young and good looking or whatever, but it's a very interesting story.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the history it's very interesting.
Yeah.
But yes, The Frost Eater is very good. And I suspect I'm going to be, I try not to buy a lot of paperbacks because I don't have a lot of shelf space left. I have a lot of books. But I think I'm going to get this one, make a little space between Stray Witch and the Bourbon books. So
now, do you miss holding the book, or is it sort of like you love your Kindle and you can't live without it type thing now?
Well, I mean, I like reading on my phone because I can read it anywhere, but I do love reading books. I love holding books, and I have so many, I love rereading books, so I can just reread all the ones I already have like a million times, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah, it's such a torn comment, like when it comes up, like I'm so torn about it because if I'm on vacation, it's like I want the book, like I want the physical book, or if I'm going down to the beach, or if I'm just I'm hanging home and it's like, oh, I want to curl up. I want a glass of wine and, oh, I can read this afternoon. Like it almost feels like a luxury. Like it so rarely happens. But at the same time, I would never read anywhere near as much material if I didn't have the Kindle because I can always get a few minutes in. Like I can get a few minutes here. I can get a few minutes. You know what I mean? You're able to like squeeze it in. Whereas it always felt like with a book, it's like, I need to find the time. Like I have to go find the time to sit down. I have to go find the time and the space. So I'm reading more, but I guess it's not the same experience.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm reading things I wouldn't have tried because I can kind of, especially with limited, I can try it. I'm not committed. So I never would have done that with paperbacks. So.
Right, because you're not going to take as many chances when you're walking through the bookstore and be like, I'll just buy all 10 of these books and take a chance I might like them. So
yeah, exactly.
It's brilliant, the Kindle Unlimited, and I assume you take advantage, if you're Prime, of the free books that they offer, First Reads. That's one of my favorite features on Kindle. Yeah. So if you have Prime, Kindle has something called First Reads, which is really publishers trying to get the book out to readers like ahead of time before publishes, and you can get it for free. You can read it for free. about a month, I would say, before the publication date, because you can still buy it, but it's not available for another month.
Yeah.
But that's one of my favorite things, because a lot of times I'll get, you know, a nonfiction book, or I'll get something that's maybe a little outside my normal reading. But it's like, it's free. Yeah, I'll pick it up and I'll see whether or not I like it. And usually you can like pick the first couple chapters and read them for it. So it's like cool things like that on Kindle that obviously you can't get if you
Yeah,
didn't have the Kindle. So pretty
definitely.
cool. Well, that's awesome. Well, well, just to close out our quick interview here, what is next for you?
Oh goodness! After the Shendry series is over, because I still got to finish that. That's my next year. I have. I'm working on a series of short stories that are young adult, but they're not fantasy. They're all kind of geek romances, kind of based around like conventions and cosplay that I'm really into. So
I saw that. I saw that you were a math teacher, a collegiate math teacher, and you were into cosplay. And I was thinking, what is going on here? Like, this is quite the dynamic difference. So, you're really into cosplay? Do you dress up? Do you go to the Comic Cons? Are you all in?
Yes, I love doing that. I mean, obviously I haven't because of pandemic, and it's been limited since I had kids, because now I have to make costumes for the whole family. So that takes a very long time.
But that's cool to be able to have that experience
Yes,
with your,
and they
your
love
whole entire family. Oh, yeah, they would have to. If you have little kids, they would have to.
So,
I've been to a couple of Comic Cons with my husband, who's a huge comic book collector, and I remember the first time he asked me to go, and I was like, "Ooh, what am I going to do there? Like, I'm not into comics. I've only read a few. What's happening there?" But it's crazy. That's just so much energy. Like, you're walking into a convention, but there's just so much to look at, so much to see, so much to do, and it's just a constant, like, high level of energy. It's kind of hard to describe to people if they haven't been to
right,
one.
yeah. It's like you're all just like mutually like, oh my gosh, this, I love that. Me too. You know, like it's just
even if you're not an extrovert, like even if you're not that type of person, in that environment, everyone's talking to each other, everyone's super supportive, people are recognizing each other's costumes. It's just a really unique experience. I would highly recommend it to anybody who hasn't been, when the COVID world, I don't know, passes us by, hopefully soon, and we can go back to somewhat normal situation. I don't know if that would be normal, but somewhat normal situation. So, well, thank you for joining me. This has been spectacular. It's been so interesting to talk to you. I hope everybody goes out and checks you out. You're on Twitter. You've got a website. What's your Twitter handle? You want to tell people what your website and Twitter handle are?
my website is epstavs.com. No periods, just epstavs.com. And then my Twitter handle, I'm epstavs at e-stabs. Nothing clever, just whatever they gave me, because, you know, I wasn't sure about Twitter. And
but now look at you. Look at all these fabulous people you've met on Twitter. Look how popular you are.
Such as yourself.
I tell people all the time, it's been recorded on this show, that I never would have gone on Twitter. I was so intimidated by the whole entire process, and that writing community has been just the opposite of what I expected. It's phenomenal.
It's so supportive and so great. I love it so much.
Yeah. I mean, just to be out there and just hearing people tell you you're great, you do awesome, this is amazing, like you could do it. Like, it just, everything about it has just been just life-changing to what I would have been. And I remember when I got like, I don't know, I think it was like 30 followers, and I was telling my husband, like, I have 30 people that want to actually go out there and see what I have to say and see what I have to write. And he's like, really? Like 30? And I was like, yes. Like, it was like a really big deal. And now he just thinks I'm making stuff up when I tell him like what's going on out there on Twitter. He doesn't understand what's happening out in that world. So makes it that much more fun. Makes it that much more fun. Well, thank you so much for joining. I hope everybody goes and checks out your website, buys all your books. We look forward to seeing what's happening. Show that book up there. Look forward to the new book in December. And obviously, I will talk to you again soon on Twitter. And thank you, everyone, for tuning into this segment. Bye, everyone.